I carry my top 12. One other thing it's hard to find me in any training institution alone. I take people because there are dimensions to this thing, and I want people that will help me to implement it when I get home. Just before, still in that atmosphere of worship, just before we sit or greet one another, there is a psalm that became quickened in my spirit this year. I've been reading it for years. It's Psalm 18. Please, can you open it? Just 2 verses in it. I want us to practice it. Now, David used 12 languages to describe God. I call it personalizing your worship. Whenever you make worship personal, it's like direct contact with power. I don't know how to explain it. It works wonders for me. Because he was a military man, you will see that a lot of the languages he used here was military, security oriented. For example, he will call God my fortress, my buckler. So what is God to you? What is Jesus to you? That's what you're going to call. Let me just read it. Start from verse 1. I will love thee, O Lord, my what? The Lord is my rock and my fortress and my deliverer and my God and my strength. And it's also the God in whom, yes, I call it my confidence. Once his presence is there, I can face the lion. And then my buckler and the horn of my salvation and my high tower. Verse 3. Then I call upon the Lord who is worthy to be. He is also my worship. So shall I be delivered from how many of my enemies? When you read that whole psalm, you see all sorts of things. When David worshipped like this, God responded. Oh. Luke chapter 5 verse 36, 37 and 38. Yeah. And he spake also a parable to them, saying, no man putteth in a piece of new garment upon an old. You see, we title this church shift. If otherwise, both the new we make rent, both the new we make rent, and the piece that was taken out of the new agree not with the old. Then verse 37. No man putteth new wine into old bottles. Otherwise, the new wine will burst the old bottles and be spilled, and the bottles shall perish. So you can lose both the wine and the bottle if you mismanage that system. And then verse 38. But new wine must be put into new bottles, and both will be preserved. Add verse 39. No one, having drunk the old wine, straightway desired the new, for he said the old is better. Don't fall into this problem. A lot of people find it hard making a shift when there is a new move of God. Are you hearing what I'm saying? We're going to work on both the wine and the wineskin. I've read stories about the revival of the 70s that it began in this state and then Abia State. And then, of course, it also began in the Southwest, and they met somewhere along the line. And when I studied the history of what happened, I noticed that in this part of the country, we love the wine. We don't care about the wineskin. And that wine can represent a number of things like the Holy Spirit. It can also represent the word. It can also represent the life of the church, the life that Jesus died to give us. But the wineskin is the system that will contain that. Is the structure, is the organization that will carry that. You don't carry water without a vessel. So we like the move of the Holy Spirit. We like the spiritual parts of ministry. We ignore the organizational side of it. We think it's not important. I remember when I was growing up and I gave my life to Christ and growing up, there were very serious things that we used to neglect in those days because of the men we were listening to, and they did their best. They meant well, but everybody gives what he has received. When you see with only one eye, when God gave us 2 feet, you want to stand only on one. So there is spiritual leadership and there is organizational leadership. You have to balance the two. You have to balance the two. Let me give you a very simple example. When I answered the call and started ministry, I thought it was just to preach, pray, fast, and let the Holy Spirit move. It wasn't long. I saw that, this work involves managing people. And people management is not just Holy Spirit. It wasn't long I realized that, there's financial management here. It wasn't long I realized, there is organizational management and leadership here. It wasn't long I realized that there is project management. We are now doing infrastructure. It wasn't long I realized that security is needed in this work. It wasn't long I realized that we started building schools, that school management is involved in this thing. I thought it was just. And then I looked, I realized that there was no preparation for all this. The only type of books I used to read then was, God's General, Catherine Kuma, Holy Spirit, all those kind of books. And I still love them and I still read them. But my library right now is solidly balanced. There's nothing you will see there. It wasn't long I realized that you have to know how to look after marriages and young couples that are building families. And I was in the East in those days. I was pastoring in Enugu. So I realized that the prevailing culture in ministry, the prevailing messages around me will not get me there. There is something I'm getting. There is something that is grossly lacking. So I began to ask questions, look around to find out. In those days, I found that we could attract a lot of people, but retaining them, problem. Because I was following a lot of evangelists like Rehabonke, like T.L. Osborne, I was evangelistic. So attraction, pulling people was not the problem. After the crusades, after the healings, after all that, what happens next? How come we can fill the stadium and then the church is still half empty or half full? And you need to see the kind of money you waste in some of those kind of meetings when you don't know how to preserve the harvest. I had to learn some of that strategy for growth. But one of the biggest things that God did for me is that I understood that the price for wisdom is meekness. That's all. If you can handle your ego, I know a lot of general overseers are here, a lot of big men are here. And whatever title you have, we honor you and respect you for that. If you can just handle this ecclesiastical ego, this priesthood persona we have created in our head, and just become meek to find out what you don't know. So as a general overseer, then it used to be once in a month because I was desperate. It was later I balanced it once in a quarter. I have to leave Enugu. I have to be in Lagos. I have to find out somebody that understands what I don't know. So do you know that when I first went to Winners Chapel, when I came, I decided that I'm going to start from their foundation school. Their first level. I went from that first level till we did their Bible school first layer. And of course, I carry my top 12. One other thing it's hard to find me in any training institution alone. I take people because there are dimensions to this thing, and I want people that will help me to implement it when I get home. Some pastors like to go alone, so when they come back, they can say, the Lord spoke to me in the night. And all that. I don't have such problems. I don't have such problems. I sit down with our people, and none of those people who have been with me in all those things has gone anywhere. Some people think you lose your respect it's not true. If you're authentic, your people will respect you. So we did Wobvi all the way to the last level. In those days, it was while we were in Wobvi, I discovered Daystar Leadership Academy in those days. So the wineskin, there were things happening on how to manage revival, how to manage a church, how to manage people, how to manage your finance, how to manage projects, how to manage. Look at projects. I remember one of our churches, One of our churches, we just built it. And Sunday service, people just left the service. People left. I think it was less than 30 minutes. The whole roof collapsed. And thank God nobody died. But you see that thing that looked like accident? It was not an accident. The system, the wisdom, the mechanism for managing projects was not there. I needed to find that out and then balance it with wine. My friend that I had then, he didn't have a lot of meekness. So sometimes we'll go for a training, he will get there, he will see people that he's more anointed than. But they are giving him what he lacks. But the pride, that guy was used by God in miracles. He will get there, a lot of leadership and management stuff, and he will tell me, is this what we came here for? This is what you brought me here for? I remember when I took him to Lagos Business School, we were doing their chief executive program. He stayed for a week, he left. He's not in ministry today. That was the guy his faith used to frighten me. Sometimes we'll go to some meetings, he will call cripples, and I will be praying, I'm fainting. Because I prefer, pray, at least if they walk, we see if they don't. Why are you bringing them out? Like the day I took him to my school. But somehow, he had the gift of faith, he had these gifts, and then he would deliver. But one small thing, one small crisis took him off. Yeah. Years after, I went for him to help, put him back, and all of that. Because it was wisdom that was the missing link. So much power. So in the East here, you don't have a problem with fasting. You don't have a problem with prayer. You don't have a problem with all that. You don't have a problem with power. Remember, we wrote church shift and Holy Spirit. So we're going to give you that part too. When Pastor Pojo and all of them are gone, I will bring that part. So you don't think I've backslidden. Before they start looking at me, is he still there or not?